Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Love and Lead podcast. Last episode, we talked about faith and work, how our calling becomes a place of discipleship. And today, we're going to take that a step further. What happens when your influence expands, when you're not just leading a team, but you're shaping a generation? Today, I'm joined by Coach Allen Whitehart, NHSCA National Head Coach of the Year, President of the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, Executive Director of the Georgia Basketball Coaches Association, and the head varsity basketball coach at Milton High School. But beyond those titles and accomplishments, he's a husband, he's a father, and a leader who spent years shaping young men both on the court and off the court. Welcome to the podcast, Allen Whitehart. Welcome, sir.
Appreciate
There
it.
you go.
Thanks for having me. Anything I can do to help you guys. I think the word of your family and your son specifically.
Yeah.
Got some wins with him on the floor. And you guys were a blessing when you came to Milton. So I'm happy to share.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So I was talking, I think I texted him the other day, and I was just telling him that many people, when they see us, they see, what we look like today, the glam and the accolades and where we are, but they don't know the backstory. What did it take for us really to get there? And today, that's what I want to do. I want to tap into this leader, kind of hear a little bit about his story, and then move forward to, how does he shape young men as we talk about love and leading? So first and foremost, Coach, tell me a little bit about your backstory, like kind of where you came up, what brought you to this place, the man that I'm sitting in front of today.
Hot.
Yeah, yeah.
Grew up with a single mom, 4 kids, welfare. Athletics was your only outlet. Me and my older brother are both good athletes. And when you're in the inner city, you're kind of looking for ways out. And athletics was one of the ways you were able to get away from poverty, single mom. And then with athletics, you have men pour into you. You have different men that are really not into anything but helping you. And, with that growth, as you get there, as you get a little older and you start resenting, not really father figures, but authoritative figures.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I was really combative as I got between the ages of 15 and 18. People that were trying to pour into me, I'm good, but you're not my dad, because I didn't have my dad. So struggled with that, tried to go to college. That wasn't my route at the moment. Was really lost. Made the decision to join the Marine Corps. That takes you from a boy to a man real quick.
Yeah.
Structure, I talk about it all the time. You get the structure, you get all the things that are probably missing that a dad doesn't give a son if he's not around. So went to the Marine Corps, flipped my life upside down. 4 years in there really changed the way I operated. And I think today, a lot of those principles, a lot of those struggles probably pour into who I am here now. I think about all the things I pour into young men as a coach. When I got into coaching, back up a little bit, met my wife during that period of getting out of the Marine Corps, followed her to college. That was kind of one of those non-negotiables with her parents.
Mm-hmm.
Went to college, been with her since then, since 96. Followed her here to Atlanta. I was a kinesiology major, so I was in fitness, and followed her. She got into law school at Emory. I was like, I'm not doing anything in North Carolina. I'm going to follow you down. That was in 2000. And was in the fitness industry, running one of my gyms. And Pat Summit's one of her first big recruits at Tennessee. Cindy Brogdon was one of the people working out in the gym. We would always talk hoops. And she said, hey, I've got a friend who needs a JV coach. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, I'd love, maybe. I don't know. I'll try. Get over there. And I was hooked. I was like a kid in a candy store. I think a month into that, I decided I was going back to school to make my history minor a history major so I could teach, because I knew that was the avenue. So I enrolled at Oglethorpe, flipped that history minor into a major. My first year done student teaching, I got hired as a first-year teacher and a first-year head coach. So that was at Centennial High School.
Yeah.
Blessed beyond to be given that opportunity. And they had been a team that had been okay. My first year there, we made a state title run, won 21 games in a row. As a first-year head coach, made it to the state finals in the highest classification, lost at the buzzer. Was really successful in my 4 years as head coach there. Then I went to Buford for 5 years, played for 2 state titles there, 3 Final Fours. Took a year off, was really just grinding. And at this point, I'm a father of 2 infants or toddlers. And I was missing so much time with them. My son was about to start kindergarten, so I took a year off. stepped away from teaching and basketball and coached a 5-year-old team.
Right.
um, Great year for growth. But they had a kid. He was at Pace Academy because we lived in town. He said, "Dad, they got this kid at Pace. He's going to be a pro." It was Wendell Carter, who's with Orlando now.
Yeah.
So he said, "Let's go watch, Dad. Let's go watch." So we go there, man. I was like a drug addict in a drug house, man. I was sitting there like writing things down, just taking notes to coach me.
Yeah.
And I went home that night and I was in corporate sales then. And I told my wife, I said, as soon as the season ends, I put my resume out there and see what happens. And when you get out, it's so much harder to get back in coaching. So I ended up going to Etowah, who had never really won. Completely flipped things around there, took the job at Etowah, won their first region title in school history, and started courting a little bit. We had some conversation behind the scenes, and then that was in 2017. So I've been here at Milton since 2017. I just finished my 9th season here. Next year, they keep me around and be 10.
Good. Hey, I want to pause you right there. You said a whole lot. You covered a lot of excellent history, like your coaching. Sounds like you jumped in and right from the start. You was already, excelling. So I just want to I'm gonna go back a little bit. You said something that I think, many of our listeners might be able to relate to. You said you grew up with I figure and you kind of resented even men who maybe wanted to try to pour into you. So I want to stop right there and say, now that you look back, I'm thinking about the young man at home who, may be in that same situation. In hindsight, what would you say to that young man who has people around him, men who he's looking at kind of like you did? Like, look, I don't need a dad. And I don't think those men wanted to be your dad. They probably just saw something great in you and they wanted to pour into you. What would you say to that man and to that young man in hindsight if he has people around him right now who are trying to reach him to encourage him to take in some of that mentoring?
If you don't, you're going to regret it. So I had to go back, like my high school coach. We had no relationship when I left school. Didn't want anything to do with him. As I got into coaching and started figuring it out, I mended that fence. I went back to say thank you, to say, I appreciate everything you were trying to do. But in that chapter of my life, I couldn't understand it. So now when I'm talking to a young man, be receptive of people that are trying to help you, because you never know what connections different people have, not just in sport, but just in connections in life.
Yeah.
Who's to say they don't know someone can help you in 10 years, 5 years, 4 years? It's always those connections you have. And when people are trying to pour into you, they see something good in you.
Yeah.
And that's the reason they're trying to make you better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And you just said something that is brought to my memory. My pastor says all the time that, the currency of life is relationships. And I think that sometimes when we're younger, we really don't realize how important relationships are. You said you went back and you mended that relationship. I think when you're younger, if you can get that, like these relationships might matter down the line. And that's very important. So I'm glad you said that. So at what point did you realize that coaching, you have all the accolades, but at what point did you realize it's bigger than basketball? And when you realized that, did it change the way you
Yeah. I mean,
coached?
yeah, I think it's when I had a kid, because when you don't have your own child, you're coaching. Most coaches mimic how they were coached. They do the drills they were taught, the
Yeah.
drills they played in. I mean, they kind of create some things, but it wasn't until my son was born, because then you look at it as a dad. Now you're looking at it. I'll give you a perfect example. We lost in the state finals in another year, and I stayed in my office, got back from Macon, we lost. I stayed in my office till sunup with my staff, trying to figure it out. And I got home and I asked my wife, I said, what am I trying to do? What am I trying to build? What am I trying to do with this? And she said to me, hopefully you're building something your son can play for.
Yeah. That's your home.
So now I probably spend more time pouring in and pulling out.
That's
Yeah. Mind candy daily. What happens when the ball stops bouncing? What are you going to be doing in 10 years when basketball is something you do on the weekends, when it's not an everyday thing?
yeah.
Use basketball. Don't let basketball use you.
That's good.
Is the big thing.
That's good. Yeah. So how do you help young men separate who they are from how they perform?
That's interesting. We were just we're doing a leadership with our rising seniors. And one of the things we talk about is don't let the jersey define who you are. Basketball is what you do. It's not who you are. So we talk about when you have the jersey on, be the competitor, be the person that basketball requires, but don't let it define who you are, what you want to be in life. And I think so many people, as they watch NBA players, they think that NBA's identity is tied to how they play. And I want them to understand that it's what you do, it's not who you are.
Yeah.
Because who you are is totally different. It's like, I always laugh, but Jokic that plays for Denver,
Yeah.
he said, when my time's over, I just want to disappear. He wants to go see his horses in Europe.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be in the limelight. That's not who he is.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for kids to understand that the ball will stop bouncing. What have you done to create your own legacy? Not just in basketball. What have you done to create a legacy in life?
That's good. So what do you see happen when a player hasn't grasped that and his identity is tied to basketball? I'm sure you got some stories that you've seen. The ball has stopped bouncing and they're just lost. Like,
They struggle.
yeah,
They struggle because it's been everything that's consumed their life. Everything's been about basketball. For me, even when Ant was here, first, I wanted to go be kids. I say, hey, man, it's the weekend. Don't do basketball. I don't want you touching a basketball. You can go swim in the summertime. Just go have fun. Be a kid. Play video games. Eat snacks. Kids, I don't think kids have the childhood we had.
yeah, no,
Like where they can just go play in the yard innocently.
yeah,
Now everything, you're under the microscope. I got to get this scholarship. I've got to be at this camp. I've got to be at this camp. I've got to go to a trainer. We didn't have trainers when I was
No.
coming up. You went to the playground and you hooped.
that's it.
And now guys are skill training, they're weight training, they're plyometrics training, stretching. Somebody's got a specific for everything. I think it's just changed the mental makeup of players where they don't just be themselves anymore.
No, that's good. And you probably ain't have to tell Ant for once to go play a video game.
But that's important. That's part of
No doubt.
being a kid
Yeah.
because unfortunately, when you become an adult, you don't have that innocence anymore.
Yeah.
Because now
that's
then
good.
comes responsibility. And even more so when you have a family, the mortgages due, the car payments are due. When you're a kid and it's being done for you, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
You don't think about it. Money grows on trees, right? Like my son, for example, he's 16.
Oh.
He's got a car, he's boom, boom, I need gas money. I need food money. I need these new shoes. I need this, I need that. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
I want you to have the things you need, but let's kind of weigh out what you need versus what you want.
Those are different.
Yeah, they're very different.
Those are very different.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's go to your kind of your coaching realm and philosophy. What are some non-negotiables in your program when you coach? What are some things that if this is what we're going to do? This is non-negotiable for my players.
I mean, effort. I think that's the first thing. If you don't have effort, you can't be good. I'm not going to coach effort. If I have to coach effort, we're going to get effort in a different way. But that's the main one for me. And then I'm big on punctuality. I take pride in not being ever late. Practice starts, I'm there on time. And I think that's one of the things my players know. Punctuality, communication. Communication's a non-negotiable. You have to communicate. If you can go with effort, communication, punctuality, you're already ahead of the game for when the ball does stop bouncing.
Yeah, I bet. And I can attest to that because we actually talked and you and I and Ann and you encouraged Ant to communicate. These kids, with the Instagram and texting, just like face-to-face conversations. I think, like you said, basketball being part of a team and having a coach that, makes that a non-negotiable, you're going to use that skill. That's a skill you're going to need, down the line. So yeah, that's good. You impacted hundreds of players, but not only that, now at your level, you're impacting coaches as well. How do you carry that weight and that responsibility of having other men kind of looking towards you in their coaching?
I'm just trying to grow the game. I didn't have, here again, I don't know if it's by design or just by ignorance. I'm really not sure even at this point, but I didn't have great head coaches that I coached under. The two that I coached under, one of them was a really good guy. He wasn't a basketball guy. He
Yeah.
wasn't a leader of men. Great guy, hung out with him a little bit. The other guy was not very good at all. I didn't have that mentor that could walk me through the ropes. So when I hit my first year as a head coach, it was kind of like surviving. I'm going off what I knew and relating to my players, being a player's coach. I think I still am that today. But, I always have to remind myself, they stay 17, 18. I get older every year.
Yeah.
So when I started, I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
Now I'm in my 50s.
Yeah.
So, I've got to figure out ways to connect because the generations change. I was just at the Masters for the week. And I think it's one of the most unbelievable things. There's no phones allowed.
Oh,
You can't take phones in, so it's got to be face-to-face conversation. Everybody's heads up instead of down.
yes.
And when you go through 7 days of that, all of a sudden, it's kind of like, man, this is pretty uplifting.
Yeah.
The fact that you have to stop and talk to people, greet people, and it's pretty amazing. So I think we've got to get kids to communicate more.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, that would be good if you had it where you got to cut those phones off. I think you probably used to do that. I don't know if that
We
does
do. We
come.
collect phones.
Yeah, I was
We
gonna
collect
say,
phones.
I know that helps build relationships. I'm
does.
trying to remember if that's something that you did.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what separates a good player from a true leader?
I think great leaders have an innate ability to already understand what's needed. I think you can grow leaders. I really do believe that, but it takes some acceptance and it takes you to be humble. But I think great leaders make themselves vulnerable. They are willing to take the risk of upsetting someone, of being the guy who's not the cool guy. So you got to understand with kids, everybody's trying to be cool. Everybody wants everybody to like them. And occasionally you get that individual who some lead by example, some lead by being vocal, some say, just follow my lead. So what you're constantly trying to do is let them understand the different leadership styles, which is not going to lead the same way. Some coaches are going to be very outspoken and very volatile almost,
Yeah.
while others are silent leaders. They do everything a specific way. For me, for example, as a young coach, I was very energetic and not a yeller, but I was high voice. Now I'm pretty even tone because if I'm staying at a high level all the time, shouting, boom, 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 and I try to get it to that level, there's no shift. So now if I'm pretty monotone and when I raise it,
Yeah.
oh,
They know.
so kind of a drill instructor
No
theory.
doubt. Yeah.
In my time there, if the drill instructor's low key, you're good.
Yeah.
As soon as it goes octane, you're
Yeah. So you want to be seen. So you got drill instructors. You want to be seen, but not heard. Like, you can see me, but hey, go to the next person.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of that kind of approach.
Yeah. When we think about young men, we're talking about basketball, I know, but this story is bigger than basketball. So what character traits matter more than just talent?
I think it's integrity. I think knowing and the skilled adage, you should be doing the right thing even if you're not being watched. I think it's that integrity where you don't have to look over your shoulder, being trustworthy. Trust is one word, but trustworthy means you're worthy of my trust. You've done reactions to, I don't just have to, I don't trust people. If your son play for me, I'm not going to play a kid I don't trust. But if you're trustworthy, you've proven to me that I can trust you. So there's a difference. That trust word gets bumped around too much. But if you're trustworthy, now you're worthy of anything. I don't have to look over my shoulder. I know you're going to do what you say you're going to do. So I think that trustworthiness, that integrity are really big for young men today to really try to embrace, to give them advantages as they move up the chain.
Yeah. No, that's important. You have to earn trust. Trust is not given. So I get what you're saying. You want to know that if you put somebody on a court, in your case, that they're going to do what you've taught them to do and instructed them to do. So I can understand why that's such a valuable trait that you kind of pinpoint on. So when we talk about legacy, you kind of go back to, you were saying you and your wife, you were having a conversation, and what you said, I think it made me think of legacy. What legacy are you building and that you plan to leave when you step away from coaching?
Doing it the right way. Doing right by kids, coaching, teaching the right ways. I think any coach that's worth their weight's going to put the kids always first. The wins are a byproduct. If you do things the right way, I always tell our kids all the time, scoreboard's going to take care of itself. If you prep the right way, you treat people the right way, you practice hard, and you get all the reps that are needed in, do the right things, the scoreboard always takes care of itself. And in life, if you're doing all the things that matter for whatever your job is or whatever you're looking for, the scoreboard always takes care of itself. If you're prepared, you're doing things the right way and you're continuously building your bag, right?
Yeah.
Everybody talks about going in your bag. If your bag's got all the things that can carry you in whatever you're doing, I think the scoreboard just always takes care of itself.
I like that. Build your bag. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, because, when you get into the real world, you're no longer playing basketball, but you still got to have a bag of skills. What does your bag look like? Do you have enough skills that carry you in for that promotion?
Yeah.
What does your bag look like versus the other three guys? And I said this last year when I was talking to a group of people. As you go up, so you're in high school, there's a room you're in. As you go to college, the room gets smaller, but the competition gets bigger. And when you go to the NBA, the room gets smaller, the competition gets bigger.
Yeah.
And when you go for promotions in whatever job, if you're just a mid-level manager, it's a bigger room. Competition's not as big. When you get into a high-level manager, it's a smaller room with more competition. And when you're going for executive positions, C-suite positions, it's a tiny, tiny room with high-level competition. What's your skill bag look like?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. They can get that at a young age. They can
Absolutely.
carry that along the way. Each week, we try to make sure we have a segment where we can leave something that young men or men can take away, like a spiritual practice. And this week, our spiritual practice is um, getting our identity in Christ. A lot of men struggle in leadership, not because they lack skill. We was talking about that earlier. It's because they lack identity. They really don't know, who they are. When you know who you are, you start leading from pressure, performance, and insecurity. But when you identify and are rooted in Christ, you can lead from confidence, clarity, and peace. So this week, I want you to pick one of these two scriptures that I'm going to give you right now. One is Romans, kind of says there's no condemnation. The other one is Matthew 3:17 that says, "This is my beloved son." And I want you to spend 5 to 10 minutes each day this week. Don't rush, no pressure, just be present. Read those scriptures, the one that you picked, slow, and then hear what God is speaking to you. I want you to say at the end of that time, "God, who do you say that I am?" And let those scriptures speak back to you and get your identity in Christ. You don't need to lead to earn identity. Your identity is found in Christ. And until the foundation is solid, everything else will feel like pressure. So this week's practice isn't about perfection. It's about presence. You don't have to get it right. You just have to show up, because formation doesn't happen in one moment. It happens one faithful step at a time. So, once again, I just want to thank Coach Whitehart for taking time to just share kind of his story, kind of his philosophy, and what his legacy that he's building and leading. Also, I want to personally thank him for the impact he's had on my family. Just make a long story short, we moved here in my son's senior year. Exactly sure, where he was going to go to school, but I had one conversation with Coach Whitehart, and he said some things that made me think and tell my wife, this is a place where I think we need to take my son. And what I found out is he's a man who doesn't just walk the walk, he talks the talk. And because of my son's time here, I think he left here more prepared for college and more rounded as a young man. So I just want to thank you for doing that. And I'm going to finish with this. Coach Whitehart, he's not just a coach of men on a basketball court. He's a teacher. He has men in his classroom. So you're around people who's not are not just playing sports. So with that being said, what would you say to the young man that doesn't play sports, seeking to become a man? He may be like you were, not having father figures or men in his life, but he wants to try to get these disciplines and values that would help him become a leader one day. What would you say to him?
I would say embrace the journey. I would say look for the outlying things that maybe you don't see. Keep your head up, be looking for avenues. Everybody's road's different. You're gonna take a wrong turn sometimes. Life does not have the ways. You can't just punch in a destination and get there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to go down the wrong road, but be smart enough to readjust. Sometimes you're not going to get what you thought you were going to get out of something, and that's okay, because nothing good ever is easy. So I would say just, on your journey, stay aware and be open for opportunities that can assist you in what you're trying to accomplish. And if you haven't found out what that is, don't stress it. People find out their destiny or their legacy at different points in life. I can be honest with you. I was kind of lost up until right at 30, 28, 30, until I found basketball as a coach. I came into it late. I didn't leave high school or even college wanting to be a basketball coach.
Yeah.
I think being somebody who was always good with people, to just kind of navigated that way. And I've been blessed that I found something that was kind of a ministry for me, where I was able to pour into people and able to grow people and able to do it with not wanting any return. Like I do it because I want to see people have success. I want to see people grow. I want to see what guys look like in 10 years, 20 years. That's when I get invited back to a wedding, which I've done a lot of those recently, or coach had a baby. Coach, this happened in my life. Coach, that happened in my life. I think the word coach, when they see you 20 years later and they still call you coach,
Yeah.
pretty cool.
It is, right? I appreciate that. Say walk with your head up, look for opportunities. And he said something very important too. What your final destination may be, it may look different along the way. You might find yourself like, Coach, you were saying you was in kinesiology and you were going to school for something else and just coaching happened to kind of fall into your lap. So that means you have to be willing to, accept new opportunities. And I think that's something that you say that's really important, not just for men, but, just as humans, we can't get stuck in one lane. We got to be open-minded. So that's really good. So I just want to thank Coach Whitehart again. I really appreciate his leadership. Appreciate he doesn't just look at players as basketball players. I saw him take the time to pour into my son, and you said it yourself, pour into hundreds of young men over the last couple of years. And I know it's many more young men lives that you're going to impact.
Oh,
So,
yes.
so this week, I just want to reemphasize to our listeners, don't chase performance, your identity in Christ, and lead from that place. If this episode challenged you, share it with another man. And remember this week, don't just hear the word, be formed by it. Until next time, love well, lead boldly, and walk with Jesus.